The Galactic Council had designed the survival trial to be impossible. That was the point. For 3,000 years, species from across the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies had attempted the trial, a test of pure survival instinct on the barren moon of Keth 7. The rules were simple and absolute. Survive 7 planetary rotations without tools, technology, or assistance. Candidates were stripped of everything: clothing, devices, even basic implements. They were left with nothing but their biology and their will. No species had ever lasted more than 2 rotations. Emma Rodriguez stood naked in the center of the drop zone, her dark hair whipping in the thin, cold wind. The twin suns of the Keth system cast harsh purple shadows across the rocky wasteland. Beside her, Elijah Chen crouched low, already scanning their surroundings with the practiced eye of someone who understood that observation was the first tool of survival. "Assessment?" Emma asked, her voice steady despite the frigid air burning her lungs. Elijah pointed toward a distant ridge. "Sedimentary rock formations. That means flint, possibly obsidian. Water erosion patterns suggest a spring within 3 kilometers northeast." He stood, seemingly unbothered by his nakedness. "The council said no tools allowed." Emma smiled grimly. "They said we couldn't bring tools." Above them, in the orbital observation platform, the council watched with their characteristic mixture of curiosity and condescension. The Valurians, beings of pure energy, flickered with amusement. The Krytox, massive insectoid creatures, clicked their mandibles skeptically. Even the normally sympathetic Earthian ambassador, a gray-skinned humanoid from Proxima Centauri, seemed doubtful. "The humans will fail by nightfall," proclaimed Counselor Vexthor, his crystalline body refracting the observation deck's light. "They have no natural weapons, no protective carapace, no environmental adaptations. They are soft, weak creatures." The first rotation proved brutal. Without the protection of clothing, Emma and Elijah suffered under the purple sun's radiation. But while other species would have sought shelter and waited for rescue, the humans moved with purpose. Elijah found the flint deposits within hours. Using one stone as a hammer and another as an anvil, he struck with precise angles, fracturing the rock along its natural grain. Flakes fell away, revealing sharp edges that glittered in the alien sunlight. Emma watched the technique, then replicated it, her hands bleeding from a dozen small cuts that she ignored. By nightfall, they each held a hand axe, crude by human standards, revolutionary by galactic ones. "They're making tools," Counselor Jara whispered, her tentacles coiling in confusion. "From rocks. From nothing. Impossible," Vexthor insisted. "Stone cannot be shaped without tools." "The stone is the tool," the Earthian ambassador said quietly, leaning forward with newfound interest. The second rotation brought the true test: water and food. The sparse vegetation on Keth 7 was toxic to most carbon-based life. The native fauna, small, quick creatures with razor-sharp defenses, had evolved specifically to be uncatchable by any known species. Emma found the solution in the fibrous plants near the spring. While Elijah constructed a rudimentary shelter using rocks and branches, she stripped the plant stalks, separated the fibers with her fingernails and teeth, and began twisting them together. Her fingers worked with mechanical precision, overlapping, twisting, creating tension and strength from weakness. By the third rotation, she had rope. Elijah used the rope and a flexible branch to create a bow. The arrows were tipped with the sharpened flint, bound with plant fiber and fletched with broad leaves that caught the wind. When he brought down one of the quick native creatures with his second shot, the council chamber fell absolutely silent. "They're hunting," Jara breathed. "Without claws, without venom, without any biological weapons." "They made biological weapons," the ambassador corrected. The fourth and fifth rotations saw the humans transform their small shelter into a fortified camp. Elijah dug a fire pit using a flat stone as a shovel, then used friction to create fire, a feat that required such precise understanding of physics and material science that most council members couldn't comprehend how it was possible without computational assistance. Emma crafted a spear, then 3 more. She wove baskets from plant materials to carry water and food. She created a primitive kiln and fired clay containers. Each innovation built upon the last, a cascading chain of problem-solving that left the council reeling. "They're not surviving," Vexthor said, his voice hollow with shock. "They're thriving." By the sixth rotation, Emma and Elijah had processed enough animal hides to create crude but effective clothing. They had reliable food and water sources. Their shelter could withstand the violent windstorms that plagued Keth-7's night cycle. They had even created a defensive perimeter using sharpened stakes, a concept so foreign to most galactic species that they had no word for it. When the seventh rotation arrived, the Council descended to the surface to formally acknowledge the humans' success. They found Emma and Elijah sitting comfortably around a fire, roasting meat, drinking from clay cups, and discussing plans for improving their shelter. "How?" Vexthor demanded, his composure shattered. "You had nothing. You are nothing. No natural weapons, no armor, no advantages." Emma stood wrapped in her handmade hide cloak, a stone knife at her belt, and smiled. "That's where you're wrong, Counselor. We had everything we needed." She tapped her temple. "We had this." Elijah rose beside her, holding his bow. Every species in the galaxy evolved perfect adaptations for their environment. But humans? We evolved to adapt the environment to us. You see rocks, we see tools. You see plants, we see rope, baskets, fire. You see problems, we see solutions waiting to be created. "We don't need claws," Emma continued, "because we can make knives sharper than any claw. We don't need thick hide because we can make clothing warmer than any fur. We don't need venom because we can make weapons deadlier than any toxin." The Earthian ambassador stepped forward, pride evident in his expression. "The Council has long wondered why humanity was granted membership despite our relatively recent emergence as a spacefaring species. I believe you have your answer." Counselor Jara's tentacles curled in a gesture of respect. "The trial was designed to test survival instinct. But you didn't just survive, you conquered. Without any tools allowed, you created an entire civilization." "That's what we do," Elijah said simply. "That's what humans have always done." "You said no tools allowed." He gestured at their camp, at the weapons and containers and shelter they'd built from nothing. "So we made them." The Council voted unanimously. Humanity's membership was no longer provisional. Earth would have a permanent seat, with full rights and privileges. Not because humans were stronger or faster or more naturally gifted than other species, but because when the galaxy said impossible, humanity sharpened a stone and proved otherwise.